I recorded a video about seeing symbols everywhere you are and asserting your agency through creating the symbols. And, well, it seems as though the universe has been acting against me this month. So I found this quite funny and wanted to explore it further. This November, I signed up for NaNoWriMo and wanted to write 50,000 words, and then I came down with something at the very start of the month. I had no energy to write, so I ended up taking and tweaking things from an older version of a piece I'm working on and adding them to the new version and pretending that it was new, adding it to the word count, cheating, essentially. But then, as I started to feel better, something happened to my hand. So I went to get a checkup, and long story short, I had to use my hand as little as possible. So what does that say about signs from the universe? Is the universe telling me that my writing is not going well? That I shouldn't be doing this? That it's a mistake? Well, the premise of my former video was that we create our own signs, which means I don't have to see signs here if I don't want to. I mentioned in the video that at the end of the day, it's all about the agency. And I am making the choice that this is not a sign, but rather a challenge. And I'm using it as an opportunity to seek out loopholes, to do things differently. Is this a contradiction? I don't think so. In my video, I suggested that symbols, synchronicity, etc. are a tool. And what do we use tools for? We use them to fix something. So we can only use the signs from the universe if there is something that needs fixing. We don't have to see them everywhere. So I decided to kind of push back, and I guess this video is about what I've learned this month. I'll be sharing my reflections about writing, about my hand, and about possibly contradicting your own points. Who knows? First of all, let's talk about NaNoWriMo. In the spring of 2020, I was writing so much, it's unbelievable. But then, in the summer, I began to write less and less with each passing month, until eventually, you know how it goes. Don't get me wrong, I still wrote regularly, but the feeling was not the same. So I thought, perhaps NaNoWriMo would change all that. Or, well, not really, I didn't, but I decided to change NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, to NaBadWriMo, National Bad Writing Month. I figured if I let myself write badly, then I may lose all inhibitions and actually write and enjoy it. I tried to convince myself that it essentially doesn't matter if everything I write is crap, because I can always make it better later. But it's just so hard to do this in practice, you know? And sometimes the danger of having expectations, word counts, rules, makes us forget that writing is an act of imagination. There is the sitting down and thinking up a story, and then there's the writing, but the intermediary is imagination. But as obvious as it sounds, it's easy to forget it. You sit at a table trying to transform your conscious and subconscious mind onto the words on the page. And you're doing it directly because you're so focused on the tangibility of the words on the page, or the word count expectations, you might forget to visit the gas station of imagination along the way. And then the writing stops being pleasurable because you're so preoccupied with the actual words that have to be created. You forget to actually visit that world, experience imagining it. I guess this corresponds to signs in a sense that you're so busy wanting to make everything make sense that you don't take the time to just exist among those signs or non-signs without having to translate them into something fixed and defined. So anyway, eventually I tried to use dictation in pages to spare my hand. It was weird. I spoke so slowly, my thinking began to slow down. And not in a good, calming way, but rather in a way where the world I was creating began to inflate and lose color and turn slow motion in a strange way. But at least I tried. There are always options. If life gives you a broken hand, then instead of seeing the world as broken, you use your voice and speak out. Now there's a catchphrase. Then I decided to give up on NaNoWriMo altogether. So, you've got a climax. But really, it had nothing to do with the morbid signs from the universe. Because I believe in perseverance, and I believe these kinds of challenges can be helpful, but we don't always need them. For example, back in June, I participated in a 1 story a day challenge, and I must have needed that at the time. Because even though I hated the blank page more than life itself on some days, I still did it. I wrote something new every day and I completed the challenge. And this time, I didn't. And when I gave up on it, mid-November, it felt so good. I began to enjoy my project again, even though I went at a much slower pace than I would have otherwise. So in order to finally get there, I needed to embark upon NaNoWriMo, change it to bad Rimo, fall ill, incapacitate my hand, and listen to the universe telling me I shouldn't be doing any of this. But instead of dropping it altogether, I decided to do it on my own terms instead. I'm not sure if this carries any coherent lessons. Maybe it's that any mindset rules we might have are never set in stone. Sometimes it really is about trusting yourself enough to know what you need or do not need at a certain moment in time. And trusting that your world will not fall apart if you don't write 50,000 words in a month. And regarding my hand, which is doing somewhat better now, there is another mini lesson to be found. I used to have this green bracelet on my right hand. Here it is, or what's left of it. A former acquaintance gave it to me a few years ago. She used to live in Brazil, and it is supposedly a Brazilian tradition that you put the bracelet on, think of 3 wishes, and when the bracelet falls off, that means at least one of those wishes came true. So there I was at the appointment, and they wanted to put an elastic band on my hand. But it was difficult to do with that green bracelet thing, so I just said they could cut it off. Just like that, after years of wearing it. Instead of moving along with wishes and dreams and some kind of fate, I asked someone to cut it off. And you know what? To be perfectly honest, at the moment, right now, 2 out of those 3 dreams I had back then are not even my dreams anymore. I guess what I'm trying to say is, we give meaning and symbolism to things, and it matters. But we can also take it away. We can give up on it. We don't have to make November this huge deal when we'll write 50,000 words. Or we don't have to wait for our magic bracelet to come up by itself if we want a sign that our dreams are coming true, or that they're about to come true. Our dreams may not even be our dreams anymore, and there's nothing wrong with that. We need to persevere, but we don't need to be desperate. Not everything will always fall into place, and the universe may be sending us conflicting signals. And it's actually those moments that shape us. Because how do I feel about the fact that the universe may not want me to write? How do I feel about the fact that the universe cuts my dreams off before they can seamlessly come true, even if a few of them are expired? And my answer is, for the moment at least, there is nothing to deal with. We can ignore the universe sometimes, the annoying phantom that it is. You can persevere, but you can also choose what you persevere through. As long as you know why you're doing what you're doing, why it's important to you. You can be flexible with your rules and strategies and pacing. Science can be great, but they can also keep you stuck. For example, in the very first episode of Friends, Ross Geller sees Rachel in her wedding dress. Ever since then, he treats that as a sign that they belong together, whether he's conscious of it or not. He does not always treat her well, and he's certainly pretty toxic. So we might interpret his behavior throughout the series as being fueled by that moment. By that moment when he became convinced that the universe sent him a sign that he belongs to Rachel because he saw her in a wedding dress as he was thinking about wanting to be married again. It created a sort of order in his head, a coherent narrative, and he didn't have it in him to get rid of it. Of course, I know he had a thing for Rachel before that happened, but seeing her at that moment might have solidified his illusions. And who knows, maybe if Rachel didn't storm into that cafe in that wedding dress on that day at that exact time when Ross needed it, he wouldn't become so incredibly fixated. Me and another YouTuber, Blakeford, I link his channel below so that you can check it out, have been exchanging comments a while ago. He mentioned life being a bundle of moments, and then I mentioned David Hume's idea of us being a bundle of perceptions. And then he wrote something I really liked, that maybe the logic of life comes when moments and perceptions are in harmony. But that is rare. If everything is always in movement, then these moments of harmony, no matter how frequent they may be, they last a split second and then they move on. So constantly looking out for them is a fool's errand. We can just feel lucky if we spot them every once in a while, without an expectation that they will last. So in a way, yeah, I am kind of contradicting myself just a little bit, but I'm also not. I am all for seeing signs in your oatmeal, and I'm also all for using symbols and synchronicity to bring meaning to your life. But I'm also for doing it consciously and cautiously. So November was a bundle of somewhat interconnected moments that might have been sending me signs, and I sort of disregarded them. So if you want to tread this weird space of signs and symbols and non-signs and strangeness along with me, then consider liking this video, sharing it, possibly subscribing to my channel. Thank you for your time.